All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. And tonight we're just doing a little brief review, kind of thoughts, discussion on What If so far. The Marvel show that just started last week. Its second episode aired on Wednesday. And I'm going to be discussing the third episode over on Alyssa Jean's reviews next week, next Thursday at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. So you can see me over there to talk about that episode. But I want to talk so far about what I think of this. Because I don't just love, I love comics. I love the Marvel universe, but I love comic books. And the What If series has always been kind of a fun lark that I've taken. I've only bought the issues that I was actually interested in. I never bought What If issues regularly. It was basically if the title seemed cool. Like if I cared about the character in that book or the story that, from a previous event. I only have two books in my collection as of right now. What If the Avengers Lost the Evolutionary War? And What If the X-Men had stayed in Asgard? Now, when What If started, it took a choice, and like the first episode of What If, the series, it pretty much stayed like in line with the events of that storyline in the comics. In this case, it was like the first Avenger movie for Captain America, except Captain Carter. And so that was good. And then that's how a lot of those comics were at first. And then they started getting crazier and weirder and branching out because that's what you got to do. It's like sequels, bigger, more, and taking it sometimes too far to like almost ridiculousness, which is kind of like episode 2 of this series. Where just sometimes it just gets to be almost just fan fiction. Now, I have many thoughts on many different books. I don't give comic books a pass no matter what company they are. If I've loved the book in the past, or if I've hated the book in the past. If I read an issue of something that I usually didn't like and it's good, I say it's good. I don't just immediately just love all things Marvel, DC, everything. It has to actually be good to me. There's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes I think are dog shit. There's episodes of other Marvel shows that I think are dog shit. They don't get a pass just because I'm a comic book guy and I like Marvel and all this. So when it came to What If, the first thing I didn't like was that, and this is just me being a dork, a super nerdy nerd, sounding like a gatekeeper kind of person, but I had no interest. I immediately lost a ton of interest when I heard that it was just going to be about the MCU movies, because they wanted it to reach a broad audience, and I get it. I get it. I mean, I absolutely understand why they did it. I just don't like it, because they want to make sure that the normies who only watch MCU movies, understand everything. They couldn't bear, we wouldn't dare to challenge them with anything. So the first episode, Captain Carter one, what if she took the Captain America serum? Really, it should be, I wish they were a little bit more deliberate, but they can't be. Like, what if Peggy Carter stayed in the room? So basically, because she didn't leave the room, everything happened in a certain order, and she took the serum. And first thing I'll say, overall, between both episodes, is the animation's great. The animation is fantastic for both these episodes, and I don't see it getting any worse. I don't see it like suddenly taking a downward turn. I don't think I'll ever complain about the animation in this show. And I also don't care that it followed the events of Captain America the First Avenger, because I feel like I'm in the minority. I love Captain America the First Avenger. I actually think the Captain America trilogy is the superior trilogy of the three that we have, like if you count the Iron Man trilogy, Cap trilogy, Thor trilogy, Cap's story actually works as a trilogy. As the beginning, his origin is really great to me. I love the old timiness of it all, and then dropping this guy who's only used to that world, having it be that big fantastical, almost like otherworldly version of World War II, that like that serialized version of World War II that you saw in like old, movies from the like the 30s and the 40s, and then doing Winter Soldier, which and Captain America: Civil War, which is like a third Avengers movie, and still making it a Cap movie. Just worked so well for me. And so watching them just play out the events a little bit differently, first, like I said, tracks with the original What If series, and B, because what else were they gonna do? Like everything kind of happened still, and it was a little weird, like having each thing, like the train scene and all that stuff play out, but each thing was different. Each scene that they took from the first Avenger had tweaks because of who they were dealing with. Since Steve had the Tesseract, they weren't. They were never after Bucky, really, and even in the first Avenger, but things didn't play out that way. They were going after Steve and the Tesseract, and they weren't trying to kill Captain Carter, really. I mean, if she died, it was a bonus. But it was also great to see Haley Atwell and Dominic Cooper, and the person who voiced Chris Evans, whoever that was. I can't remember. I thought that the voice acting was really, really good for that first episode. For the most part. Some of them, like, why were they even there? Like Stanley Tucci, why was he there? He had like one line. Toby Jones, it felt like his lines. I felt like both Stanley Tucci and Toby Jones's lines could have just been taken directly lifted from the first Avenger movie and put in to this one. But and Sebastian Stan's, what they wrote for him, I didn't care for him in this episode, and I like Bucky, but I did not care for him in this animated movie. This 20-minute, like 25-minute cartoon, right? This, and I shouldn't say it like cartoon. It takes itself seriously, and that's going to come into play. And when I talk about episode 2, is they still took the material seriously. This is still for everyone. This is for all MCU fans, not just for kids because it's a cartoon. Um, the action scenes and everything, I thought that it really worked for the most part. I really, really liked it. The big squid monster at the end, and whether or not that's the monster on Maveth from Agents of Shield, and they're retconning that crap. Everybody just immediately on the speculation train about everything, which is another thing that just makes me sick. Things just can't be what they are. They just have to, and I'll admit that I get caught up in it sometimes, and I make myself sick when I do it. Um, but overall, all it left me wanting was more. That first episode left me wanting more. I wanted to know more about Captain Carter and Steve and the Iron Man suit and all that, and the fact that that Howard Stark had the suit ready so fast. Look, you have 25 minutes. You gotta make some leaps, and things have to happen fast. And they don't get to take that much time. If they wanted to, they could have made these 40-minute long episodes, which I think they should have. Then you could actually tell a full story, but they didn't. And this is what we have. And so if you only have 25 minutes, you got to make some jumps. You got to get there quicker, and get the point across. And so I really do. I applaud the first episode. It got everybody used to the idea, and it played it a little safe, but I'm fine with a little safe. Because, again, it still stayed true to, like, the original comics. Now, episode 2. What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? Well, here we go, right? Okay, so the first episode, it's fine. What if Peggy Carter became Captain America, except Captain Carter, right? But now we just have the same thing. What if T'Challa became Star-Lord instead of Star-Lord becoming, So we're swapping roles. That's what we're doing for the first 2 episodes, and this is not going to be the last time that they do it. So once or twice, okay, but now that I know it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 times in this series, no. Got to be more clever than that, man. Got to be more clever than that. And that's why limiting yourself to the MCU is small-minded. And if you're going to stay to the MCU, be more creative. Be more creative. Now, does that mean that this episode's bad? Because they switched roles. Well, that's where it lies in the strength of this episode lies. Is, of course, because, everybody wants to, it's true though. For once, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon and in the right way. And it is just fantastic hearing Chadwick Boseman return as this character. And not just this character, but like this different version of him. So much so that Feige and everybody and Boseman had said post rest in peace that they wanted to figure out how to work part of what this makes this character into the next Black Panther. And they're still going to try to do that, even though I don't know how that's possible. And so he owned this. He carried this episode to me. It was his performance, his voice performance. He brought everything that he always brought to every role he ever took, and he didn't get lazy because he's just voice acting. This guy was great in Captain America Civil War. He was great in his own movie, despite what I think of that movie. I thought Chadwick was awesome in it. And then Infinity War and barely, little in Endgame and now this. And he's going to be in 3 more episodes, which is great. Which also leads to that other conversation of they're actually building towards something in this series that, some sort of other multiverse Avengers kind of thing, which is fine too. They never really did anything like that in the comics. And so I think that that's a nice leap, a nice thing that for people that did read the comics and did want to see it go somewhere else, they're doing that. And that's cool. But again, his performance carries this thing. And the rest of it, as much as I thought, hey, great, Karen Gillan's back. Hey, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, Sean Gunn, Michael Rooker. Okay, I love that they got Michael Rooker, And it's not that because some people didn't come back or didn't know they had an invite to come back, like Dave Bautista. No, the story is why I didn't like this one. I didn't hate it by any means, but I also just didn't really. It made too many. It was too silly. It felt like it wasn't taking any of it seriously. It wasn't taking any of the things that would it's mainly the Thanos stuff. And there's a guy called that makes videos called Comics Explained, and he's a pretty hardcore comic guy. He knows a lot about comics, and he's pretty intense about continuity and taking these things seriously. I mean, not too serious, but what I'm saying is he was fine with the changes they made to Thanos, and I thought, well, that's out of character for you, just like this episode is out of character for Thanos. And that wasn't the only thing, but honestly, okay, so if you think of the line, what was going on in this episode, right? So he gets taken. He leaves and he wanted to go. Unlike Peter Quill, it wasn't like a kidnapping. He wanted to explore. They did a real careful job of setting up. He wanted to see and explore and everything like that. And we don't know anything about T'Challa's backstory to say, did he ever have these conversations in the regular MCU as a kid? We don't know. But they established that so that they find it okay that he just leaves and doesn't tell his family, hey, guess what? I'm going to take off for a while. And I guess they would have tried to talk him out of it. They skipped ahead again because we only have 30 minutes. But he takes off with them, and he actually becomes a better Star-Lord than Peter Quill. And anybody who knows me knows I complain about Peter Quill all the time. He's not one of my favorite characters. I love Chris Pratt, but he's a character that never really grows that much, and that kind of annoyed me. And especially in Infinity War, where he had a great plan and then got just fell apart because he couldn't control himself. But that's another story. But I was thinking about what had to happen for him to become a great Star-Lord and how that affected the events. And if Thanos, right, had been training and torturing Gamora and Nebula, they were young when he got them. And since he didn't do that, apparently, you can assume that Gamora's still on her planet because he never went there and killed everybody. And he didn't torture Nebula and destroy, take her apart and put her back together again, because all that happened when they were young. That means that he was young when he told the Mad Titan, crazy bananas with a point, right? They bring that up. I like that they joke about it, right? But I liked it at first, the joke about genocide. I thought, oh, that's kind of clever. But it means that T'Challa, at a very young age, was able to convince the Mad Titan to not go through with his plan. And because they don't outright address it, right? We're just supposed to ignore it. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to be that kind of dick and say a kid would never convince. I don't care what kind of, we all watched Infinity War, and as much as genocide is wrong, is absolutely wrong, and crazy what he was planning, he did have like some kind of fucked up point to it all. And you don't just, a kid would never be able to convince that kind of mentality to just go, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe I'm going too far. And they treated it like a joke to me. They treated all the events that happened just to change it. And while you could say in the multiverse, anything's possible, that's not what was changed in this universe. All that was changed was that when they came for T'Challa, they didn't go after Star-Lord, which was another thing that I thought was weird, was that they just went, well, we got a kid. We're not going to Ego, even though Ego wants us to get Peter Quill. We're just going to take this kid and leave. Now, you could also say, well, because Yondu never really wanted to deliver Peter Quill to Ego, but still, wouldn't that have come up at some point? Wouldn't have Ego have tracked down the Ravagers? Wouldn't this story have already happened? Instead of Ego having to go after Peter Quill himself, just so that they could have a story later on about it. So a lot of just the story parts just kind of irritated me. I was also jarred by Nebula's blonde hair. I'm glad that her character wasn't all destroyed and taken apart in a shell of a person, and that she was a whole person. But the femme fatale blonde hair noir look just jarred me too much. Even though I liked everything the character did, I just thought her design was just a little too jarring for me. And speaking of jarring, Benicio del Toro as the Collector also was just a little bit too much. Again, everything about this was just too cartoony and not taking it seriously. And you could go, again, the people be like, oh, it's a cartoon. No, it's still the same goddamn universe, just animated. It still has to make sense. And it didn't make sense. A bunch of things didn't make sense. I just wasn't having any fun. As much fun as I was having with Captain Carter. And I've had time to think on this. And I've watched this episode a few times. And I just can't get past it. And that's on me, okay? It's on me. I don't think anybody has... I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. You love it, you love it. I always say like what you like, But people hear what they want to hear and they'll say, well, he's just a fucking jerk about this. And it's like, no, it's just my stupid ass opinion. And somebody in the comments will go and call me, well, you called yourself a stupid ass, so I don't have to. But... it does it again, like I'm railing on it, but I did enjoy aspects of it. There were just parts of the story that I couldn't get past. I just couldn't get past them. And Howard the Duck, whatever, fine, cool. Seth Green's back as Howard the Duck, great. That was good. But part of the Collector's performance, Benicio's performance, I wasn't even sure that was really him. That didn't sound like him to me. It really didn't. And maybe, it was like it was like Benicio doing a impression of himself being the Collector. That and that he was all jacked up, but with the experiments he was doing on himself, that was fine. But I just didn't... it felt like fan fiction, this second episode. It didn't feel like a good extension off of the second one. Yeah, it was fun and cosmic, and yeah, because Guardians of the Galaxy is a fun cosmic one, great, but it still has to make sense. They could have, there's a way to do this that would have made sense, and I think if you leave Thanos out of the story, if you just cut him out, I think a lot of the problems that I had with it would have been fine. But again, Chadwick was unbelievable in it. You know who else was great? Was it Digimon Hansu, who was in the first Guardians and in Captain Marvel? I thought he was amazing. His love for T'Challa as Star-Lord, just, I loved that. That kind of stuff really worked. I loved how the beginning of Guardians like was changed. I love that this was basically a new Guardians of the Galaxy without calling it Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just some stuff, and I feel like if this is a trend, then I'm really worried about the next one, which is the one about Loki. Now, just to give you a brief idea of where I'm at with that, I'm not even looking forward to watching that one because I'm kind of Loki'd out. I've been talking about Loki for weeks, months, and one of the things I like about Loki is that at this point in the character's, place in the MCU, he has grown and changed and things that I really like. And with this episode going backwards to a Loki that's being the old Loki, I'm not interested in that story. I'm past all that. I don't want to. I'm really not looking forward to this. But we'll see. I hope it changes my mind. So anyway, that's just my brief thoughts on it. I know that some people that are expecting me to glow praise all over this are probably, pissed off. But hey, man, got to be honest. I liked it, but I also didn't like it. This is a 50-50. I really liked Captain Carter, and I only so liked the second one, even though with all the voice talent that was really good and the animation was so great, but the story just felt fan fiction-y and didn't make a lot of sense in some ways. But we're building towards something. We can still build something. I mean, Kurt Russell shows up. We got Peter Quill working at the Dairy Queen. There was some guys who didn't know why it was a Dairy Queen. It's because Dairy Queen was in the freaking second movie when Ego went with his, took his ride with his mom. They drove past the Dairy Queen, remember? So, anyway, if you like this discussion, review, whatever it is, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. I'm not going to do the neuralizer with this. I've got stuff to do. In fact, I'm getting ready to watch Alyssa's video right now. So I'm trying to get this video done and exported before I get to watch that. So I will see you guys next week in the chat over at Alyssa Jean's Reviews for my thoughts on What If Episode 3. Have a good one. Read comics. Have a great night.